Hello, everyone. Welcome to Athlete Things. Today we've got with us Ben Pape from the UK. Ben's just recently finished off Euro Championships. And yeah, hey Ben, do you want to tell us a bit
Morning.
about yourself?
Good morning. First of all, thank you for having me. So I'm a 105 kg powerlifter from the UK. Competed this year South Africa at Worlds, competed at Europeans in December. Been lifting for about 5 years now. I think specifically powerlifting, but been training in the gym for about a decade. Played a bit of rugby before powerlifting, but stopped rugby to start powerlifting. Enjoyed it way
You,
more. Don't have to rely on other people. But yeah, so
yeah,
rugby for
yeah.
powerlifting.
There's a very big difference going from team sport to individual. Hey, like first it's like you can only do so much and be held accountable for so much in a team sport, but then in powerlifting, it's all on you. Like whatever the result is at the end of the day, it's all on you. Did you find you
Yeah,
enjoyed that more?
yeah, I enjoyed. It's just the fact that I have no one else to rely on. Like if you make all your tackles in the game, your mate misses the tackle, they score. You can't
Yeah.
do anything about that. You've done your job for the rest of the time, but you're losing because someone else isn't doing their job properly. Whereas in this, if I make a mistake, if I miss a squat, that's on me. There's no one else's fault. Like I either didn't train properly or I didn't execute properly on the platform. And it's a very simple thing there. It's just you. Nothing else matters. It's just on what you do.
Yeah, I came from a football background as well, and I feel the same. As soon as I went to an individual sport, it's on you. You're the one that misses the sessions if you miss a session. You're the one that has to keep showing up, and you're the one that has to keep striving to get better. You can't. No one else can lift the weights as much as sometimes we feel like we want someone else to be able to do it for us. They can't do it. So, which is
Yeah,
why I enjoy it myself as well. Uh, and if someone else fucks up, then that's an opportunity for me to actually beat them now, not lose because they fucked up.
yeah, exactly that.
It's pretty common, Like even like in Australia, like I find a lot of powerlifters come from like either a rugby or a contact sport background. And then obviously like with the States as well, like you look at all the American footballers doing like powerlifting in college and stuff. Um, I think like one reason for that is like we all like the process of training in terms of like in footy, you're training during the week to play on the weekend, and then like with powerlifting, we're training constantly for something, like a competition or a max out session, whatever it is. So I think like it's a pretty natural progression going from like a contact team sport to then go into like a powerlifting strength related sport in terms of like the process of training and all that
Yeah.
I've found.
Definitely. It's that competitive outlet that I think all of us enjoyed about team sports. That for
Mm.
me, like I went back to play rugby, was it last year for a few months and loved it. But at the same time, was having to rely on other people. But just having a competitive outlet that isn't
Mm.
rugby anymore, it's just so good.
Did you fucking
How
pop
did
a hammy?
you?
Did you pop a hammy going back playing?
Yeah, yeah. I was
I
gonna ask how you juggled it.
I just stopped powerlifting. Like I
Yeah.
fully
Okay.
stopped last year. I had no intention really of coming back to powerlifting last year. Last year or the year before, I can't remember exactly, but kind of
When did this
I'd had enough.
happen?
So I did a comp, I think it was May 2021. Yeah, May 2021. But before that we had lockdown and my weight kind of ballooned. I was doing like 2,000 steps a day, like living just at home, couldn't go out really. Ballooned up to like 114 kilos. And then kind of cut down for a comp because I was like, I need a goal. That was the first competition back from COVID. So did that and then kind of injured my shoulder on the way in. I fell out of love with powerlifting. So just stopped with powerlifting, getting back into rugby because it was 16 years of playing rugby. I was like, it'll come back pretty naturally, but I just have no athletic base because of powerlifting. Like I don't run, I don't do anything apart from powerlift now. So started playing rugby, like hard ground, like didn't do any kind of like Achilles or calf prep, anything for my feet. So I got Achilles tendonitis in both Achilles. So had days when I was just crawling like from bed to the bathroom to start the day until I could get some movement through my Achilles.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, man. Different type of athleticism, man. We're just good at standing up with it now.
That's it. Terrible at everything isn't barbell stuff. But like,
Yeah.
I fucking hurt my leg walking yesterday, so it's great.
Okay. So during your like career in powerlifting, you've been going since what, 2017? So it's been
yeah,
about 5 years now. So when you said you ballooned up, like if I pull up your open powerlifting, you had like that weight class change. Was that change influenced mainly because of COVID?
no, I was planning to go up anyway. So I did the competition here called Bucks, which is British Universities. I totaled, I think it was 704 and a half, then did 714 a little bit later than that. I'm kind of was like, well, I've had to cut from about 95, 96 kilos. And like, I'm not a big guy naturally, like I'm fairly like skinny, I guess. Um, so kind of just packing on the extra size, and my bench has always been the thing that's been holding me back. Still does. But essentially I moved from something like 130 to 155 in about 2, 3 years of being a 93 and like starting powerlifting. So I didn't make that much bench progress. Um, and kind of if anyone looked at me as a 93, I was a skinny 93. I was like probably meant to be at 105, like I'm about 5'10", on a good day. And so we kind of we kind of pushed up at the start of COVID, and it kind of just coincided with the fact that COVID came around as I was starting to push my bolt, which wasn't good, but kind of skipped the 105s for a bit and then came back down.
I see. Got you to the end goal though of getting up there.
Yeah, well, that's it. Like I never anticipated that it would result in this, and a lot of like being able to compete internationally is just pure luck that Sam didn't want to go. Like I'm under no illusions that I came third at the British. Like there's no reason that I should have gone to an international this year, apart from the fact that Sam didn't want to go. And obviously I'm grateful he didn't want to go because it gave me a great opportunity. But at the same time, I know the British is in something like 8 weeks now. Like I've got to try beat Sam Watt or Mo. Like it's a hell of a task. And like
You have a big lineup.
yeah, it's like it's just ridiculous for me. Like that I just happen to compete in a country with two of the best lifters in the world in my weight class. Like if Sam went to Worlds, like I think this year Sam could have potentially won Worlds, knowing how
Yep.
much progress he can make in kind of the time when he's not competing. Like I think he'd have done very, very well. Same with Euros.
I think that's also really cool. But when you have like you just happen to be in that one country where all the 105s are extremely strong, which means
Yeah.
that you can drop down, or you can like sneak your way up to the top, right? And I think I had this conversation with Danny during the week, like, and that's the reason here in Australia why the 74s is like the standout weight class, because there's four of us, right, that are all up there, and we're the top on points all in Australia. The top four people on point, like GL points or dots or whatever in Australia, are all under 74. So it's like we're continually just pushing each other to just go further and further, which I guess in your case is the 105s.
Yeah, well, it's me just chasing those two, to be honest with you. Those two are so far ahead in the 105s, and there's me, and there's at the moment fourth place is. It depends who actually turns up for nationals. There's a lot of talk about who's actually turning up, but no one else is really around right now. Like I'm hoping there's a guy called Aaron Hull who's absolutely freak. Benches like 250, but I haven't seen him compete this year, so I don't know if he's turning up to nationals as 105. He says he's doing 93, but the guy looks like 100 kilos. So
It could
I think if we
happen.
put this
It
into
could happen.
perspective, if we put this into perspective for the listeners from Australia, if Ben was from Australia, he would have no competition in the 105s. He'd be 50 kilos ahead of the closest. So that's perspective for everyone that's probably going to be listening, and you'll probably get people from the UK that already know. But if you were here, you'd be that far ahead that you wouldn't really have a battle. But I think in your position, it's probably good to be the underdog. I know I like being an underdog. Makes me kind of push harder or train harder.
Yeah, the issue is I've had no illusions on how strong they are compared to me. So I don't know. I take it not that seriously in terms of like comp day. Like I listened to your guys' podcast with Joe, and Joe's obviously very intense about his training and all that stuff. But I'm very much like happy, laughy, smiley on comp day. Like I understand that they're my competitors, but I also just think that if I focus on myself, like I can't influence what they do. Like at nationals, like I walked around, I kicked Mo's water bottle over a couple of times just to try and annoy him, like a little bit, because he was so strong on the day. It's the only thing I could do to try and influence him.
Yeah.
But I found it funny. He laughed. Like I'm not doing it when he's about to go out. This is like during warm up, so I'm not gonna get in people's way when they're actually like competing like that. But as long as I look after myself and keep myself in like a calm headspace for the day, like I'll do well, and like have done well doing that. The minute I try and get hyped, I worry about what everyone else is doing. I start reading the score sheet. Like things become a lot worse for me. So it's like a lot of what I listen to is like that Taylor Swift kind of music or like classical music.
Yeah.
I'll hype up a little bit before I go out, but like I'll never shout. Like I'll still probably smile on the way out because it's fun. Like it's a hobby. Like I'm not getting paid to do this, but I just happen to be competitive against some people. So I can just turn up, see what happens.
Do you
Yeah,
feel like
it's cool.
Sorry, you guys, Steve?
It's cool hearing the different side, right? Because we have had Joe on, we've had Chance on, and we've had Liz as well. And these people, they're all a bit different in that sort of sense. Whereas you're just like you look happy on the platform, laughing, smiling, joking around. I guess like you need a good handler because you're similar to my athlete James, who we've actually had on here as well. He's a bit like that. He's just chilling the whole time as long as he's confident in his handler, whatever we put on the bar, he just got to go out and lift it.
Yeah, well, I have Owen Leggett, Owen EST on Instagram.
Yeah.
Who handled me at the British, he handled me at Worlds, and he handled me at Euros. And so he knows exactly what's going on. Like, really good friends as well. We work together with EST, but he knows what's going on with me. It's just kind of tell me what to do, send me out. Like, I'll just do it. And as long as we can have a laugh and a joke afterwards, and like when I'm warming up, like everything's fine. But if it gets too serious, then we have to kind of bring things down a notch and kind of work from there. I don't know how you guys do your attempt selections on the day, but I very much like to be involved in it. So like I'll walk off the platform and I'll say a number, and either we debate that or we go from there. But I like to be involved in that side of it.
I'm the
Is that how
same.
you guys work?
Yep.
You're the same?
Yeah, I'm the same that way as well.
Yeah, Sam as well.
I go in with like you guys in.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. Like obviously heading into the competition, you have a plan. And I think with me and Kelly, it's normally just like, give a nod or, whatever it is. And then obviously I have full trust in her, but if there's ever an attempt where I'm like, nah, fuck that, I want that, then I'll put my hand up and say, yeah, no, let's do this. But most of the time it's just, you have a comp plan and you just, give Kelly a nod and she'll load it on.
Yeah. Do you feel like that like attitude of you being happy and all that is dependent on who's around you though? Like if you back in the day when you were like highly competitive, not against such competitive people, you can walk around and kind of own the space and be a bit more aggressive because you're that number one spot?
I don't think so. I've never really been number one, I guess. Like Bucks 2019 was myself, Dapo, and a guy called Sean Paul, and three of us just laughing and joking in the warm-up room as well. Like I've never really tried to be that aggressive. Like I've tried it in a few training sessions. We see everyone on Instagram like, shouting, screaming, all of this stuff, like smelling salts. And I've tried it, and it just makes me lift terribly. So I'm really
you are very much like James in that sense. Like Danny probably relates this because Danny's handled James for me a couple of times, and like if we try over around him, I realized the first time I handled him, it's not good.
Yeah. No,
it starts to critically overthink on the day. It starts to overthink the day or just like be too critical and then essentially not perform as well as he could have. Whereas if he goes out, man, I remember he walked out to the spotters at Nationals and asked if there was any baddies in the crowd. That's James. That's what he's like. So you're probably not to that extent. You're probably not, but like, I'm relatable in the sense of I understand James, and Danny probably knows too from handling him as well. It's very different.
Yeah, it's a whole different world. I think a lot of people enjoy lifting calmly, but see the hype on Instagram and kind of head more down that route and never really try just going to the gym. You don't need like Taylor Swift or like classical music or anything like that. You go like a mid-range kind of music and just hold like just a level for all of your training sessions and see how much more repeatable your technique is and how much more focused you are, rather than this massive rise as you come into your top sets, where the hype just builds and builds and builds and you get to your back offs and you're just absolutely destroyed. Like just holding like just a level, even if it's like a low middle level, like everything becomes so much better, so much more repeatable.
Myself, for example, I get pretty aroused for like a top set, right? And I have that massive downfall in like the back down stuff from that, because I can't maintain that level of arousal that I get to, and that just like pure kind of like rage coming out or something. But it's not maintainable. I will admit that, and I have a massive drop off, like sometimes up to like 50 kilos of the same amount of reps or something. And for a 74 kilo, that's a huge drop.
That's a massive drop off.
Yeah, it's like what I dropped. I'm probably the same with as you, Ben, in terms of like finding an arousal level that works. And I think the more and more and the heavier shit I'm starting to like handle, I'm noticing I need to be more calm than I think. Especially with squats, I find like even today, like I bring my arousal up just that little bit more, and then all of a sudden I just fucking shit the bed a little bit and miss a little bit of execution. Whereas the week before, I was a little bit more calm into my top set, and like the level of execution is way higher, bar speed's higher. Of course, today was heavier, but I noticed, if I get too hyped, I just shit the bed and get all shaky. And then also it's tiring, right? Like you said, you can't maintain it. So I just get fucking tired, and then I go white. And then I'm just like, if it's a powerlifting like comp, it's going to hit deadlifts, which is my main lift, and I'm just cooked. So I think, I'm starting to learn how to be a little bit more calm. And that was something that I wanted to talk to you about, because I've noticed that you're happy, chill, just fucking loving the day. And then you're still throwing around 350, 360 in your hands.
Yeah. I mean, internally, I'm still just panicking massively if there's a heavy weight on the bar, but I'm just trying my best not to let that come through by trying to stay calm. Like, because when you get to those weights that you think like, oh fuck, like this is really heavy, like I could be in some trouble here if I mess up in my execution, then you start panicking and overthinking. If you had kind of arousal and hype on top of that, like I just don't see that as a good recipe for getting through it, rather than trusting your technique, because the technique is ultimately what's going to take you through it. But we all have those kind of weight ranges we get to. You start to get a little bit nervous, a little bit twitchy, and the arousal and the hype just kind of builds. And it feels a bit weird to start with when you start listening to just Taylor Swift classical music or stuff on that theme. And to start with, it feels a bit worse. But over time you build, you get more trust in your technique with those kind of weights, and trust in kind of the level of arousal you have that you can just execute. And it is just about execution and confidence.
Yeah. I guess it comes to knowing yourself as well. Like you, Ben, are like a complete opposite to how I know Steve lifts, right? He's on the very other end of the spectrum of needing to be super aroused in order to like lift at his best. And both approaches can get you very high level if you just trust the way that you lift.
Yeah. And Steve, do you have to use the hype and the arousal to give you the confidence to lift? Is that kind of where it comes from? Or is it more of
it's kind of like, how do I explain? Like I'm lifting, so if I'm going out to squat nearly 4 times my body weight, I know like I've got to give this absolutely everything I can. And like I train at a higher arousal level already through like a top set of squat or something. So if I'm doing this, if I went in with like a lower level of arousal on competition day, then at the same time, it's not the same as training. And all we're trying to do when we're on the platform is just replicate training, right? So if you train to a lower arousal level more consistently, then that's something that you need to hold on to, and just like, it's just essentially not changing a thing on competition day, right?
Yeah.
So if you're training a lower arousal level, then you just maintain that competition day. And I guess you don't have to draw from it. Whereas for me, I go to that level through training. So I've got to get back there on competition day.
Just to flip back a little bit in terms of talking about how like chill you are, with your training and on competition. Obviously, like, with the upcoming British, this kind of pressure that you have, this task ahead of you with Mo and with Sam. how are you kind of dealing with that with your training then? Like, are you just kind of not looking at their Instagrams and just doing your own thing with your own lifting? Are you checking out a little bit in terms of what they're lifting and using that to fuel a little bit, but not too much till you get like, start panicking, overthinking? So like, how are you kind of managing the pressure, I guess, in the next kind of 8 weeks, 9 weeks?
So right now, neither of them really post too often. Like Sam very rarely posts his training. Mo
Yeah.
will post occasionally, but his posting is always like hidden from what he's actually lifting in training.
Yeah.
He'll post like a 320 deadlift. It'll look great. But realistically, he's probably done about 340 for a triple that day.
Yeah.
He's very much one of those people. So I don't have to worry too much on the Instagram side of things in terms of seeing them lift and worrying about that. But to be completely transparent, like I'm not really thinking about nationals that much right now. Like my life outside of powerlifting is just getting sorted out. Like I need to move house. There's a whole lot of things that are going to happen before the British. So worrying about powerlifting right now is kind of near the bottom of my priority list.
Yeah.
Kind of just turning up to train at the moment is a massive win. Like just being consistent with my sessions and getting in. Like so yesterday, didn't finish the entire session, did squats, did bench, didn't bother with accessories. I was like, I need to get home, sort out what's going on at home, sort out life stuff, do my work. Like that.
At Kelly Man. At Kelly Man.
Yeah. Sorry, Kelly. But, like the leg extensions and back extensions and hamstring curls and calf raises, like 4 or 5 exercises. That's good. Be fine.
Interesting.
But I don't do it consistently.
You at a high level though. There's still like non-negotiables. So you're still getting your squatting and benching, right? So like, I guess the difference between yourself when you get to a high level, even though, like you said, powerlifting's at the bottom of your priority list, you're still making a priority to go in at the days that you plan to go to hit what you know is to be the minimum requirement. I think that's something that gets swept under the rug a lot. Like when you're just starting out powerlifting and you want to make progress, like once life gets in the way, you kind of go, oh, I got to skip a day or something like that. Oh, I've got work and I'm busy and I'm studying. Or I might just skip it to the next day. And like, that's going to just mess with your recovery. Whereas, like if you're still going to go out and compete in 8 weeks. So you're still doing the minimum work required within your life as busy as it is, you're still following the plan to an extent.
Yeah, like I wouldn't switch my training days around unless something came up. Let's say there was a competition on a Saturday that I needed to go to or be at. Like I'd move training around, but I'd probably train that morning or that evening. Like I don't think, minus competitions, I haven't changed my microcycle around in years. Like I don't miss days. Like if I'm meant to squat on a Monday, I squat on a Monday. Like it's a non-negotiable, as you say. It messes with the microcycle, messes with recovery. Like it can add a load of noise to your block so you don't actually see what's happening through the block. If you continually change your Wednesday session to a Thursday or sometimes on a Tuesday, you're never going to see what the actual result of the block was. And if you are making good progress, if that's the right stimulus for you. So I try to be really rigid on those non-negotiables, which obviously eating right, trying to sleep as much as I can, turning up in training on my set days and doing the amount of work required. But if like yesterday, super tired, I didn't see any need to do my accessories. And yeah, I probably should do my accessories. Like I'm a small 105. But it isn't going to add to my training. It's going to take away from the rest of what's important right now. But yeah, the minimum requirement just yesterday was squats and bench. Done it. Yeah, it wasn't great. The numbers weren't fantastic, but I did it. And that's going to carry over. So I've got SPD tomorrow. I'll probably have a pretty good SPD session because of it.
Yeah, for sure. Learning when to take the L. Yeah, I guess like one thing you start to pick up as you start becoming a more mature powerlifter is like learning when to take the L so you can be set up for a win later in the week or later in the block.
Yeah.
I guess we could dive a bit into like on that tangent, like how you've evolved in terms of collecting data, because you're someone that uses velocity-based training in your training as well, right? Like I'm the same, Steve's the same. We've both picked up velocity-based training. How's it helped you?
It's just made me so much more consistent, and it's taken away that kind of finish my set, watch the video of what RP does it look like, trying to balance what it looks like with how it feels. Just having a set number, subjective data. And yeah, I still lie to myself about the velocity. Like I'll take a last warm up, does a 6. I'll be like, I could probably move more weight at a 6. And I lie to myself about that, which isn't useful for using it, but sometimes the ego just takes over and you want to load a little bit more on the bar. And you execute a bit better and it's a 6.5, say. You're like, oh, okay, it's not too bad, I've overshot by half an RPE. But being able to collect objective data and then just use it well is so important. And I think it's great. I think velocity training is great, but it does add another layer of thinking to training. So right now, not really much, just kind of training for the sake of training, like just judging roughly the RPE and going from there. But being able to, like, when for Worlds prep and for Euros prep, like the only way I tracked my kind of RPEs on squats was with velocity-based training. And I think that's the reason that while my squat hasn't progressed massively this year, it stayed really consistent at the top end. Like I haven't really dropped below being able to squat 317 at really any point in the year, it's felt like. But being able to manage my RPEs well on that by just using the number that comes up on the Magic Speed machine, like, it's great.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay.
So
find it
so for me,
Yes, there you go.
right, I want to use velocity because so I can leave my ego at the door. And because I, like I said, I go to that such high arousal level. Like I have a number that I want to hit kind of as I walk into a session. Like this is what I want to hit, and I'm gonna fucking put it on the bar no matter what. And I won't listen to anyone around me if they tell me I'm not moving well or if the video doesn't look good. I'll still put it on the bar. Like
Yeah.
that's my issue, is I just cannot not do it. But if I have a machine that's like, nah, you haven't earned it. Like it makes me have to earn it, right? If you haven't earned to put this weight on the bar, then you can't do it. And I think that I won't say it hindered my progress because I've made a lot of progress in the last couple of years, but I've got quite a few like injuries popping up from just like sending it so frequently.
Yes. So mine was definitely, I was overshooting almost everything. So be RP7, I'll be going 8.5, be like, oh yeah, it looks like an RP7.
Yeah.
Because my squat is so quick and then just drops off a cliff. Like it's just one of those squats. Like I could squat, let's say 315 really fast, and you'd be like, oh my God, like 340's there. Get to 320 and it just drops off. So quickly, but having velocity data to back that up and kind of knowing that velocity curve makes things so much easier as well, just in terms of not overshooting and looking after my fatigue mainly. And also it helps. So I get really bad like elbow issues. Like I've had it pretty much the entire time I've powerlifted. Just got, shoulders don't move at all. So kind of wedging myself into a low bar position is horrible for me. But being able to adjust and not overshoot and not overload the bar, managing my fatigue, my elbows are probably better than they've ever been right now, which in part I give to velocity-based training. Obviously, load management comes in with training, and kind of the exercises I'm doing before in my accessory work are helping as well. But managing just overall fatigue by using the velocity tracker so that I'm not overshooting constantly, I think is so beneficial.
Interesting.
Yeah.
From the other end of the perspective, like I've used velocity-based training as well in my own training, and it's also I've used that as a tool that can help stop undershooting as well. Like I might hit a number that mentally I might be attached to and think like, okay, this is heavy, but the speed says otherwise. And it's like, okay, no, you're actually good to do more. And the data doesn't lie. But at the same time, there's also days when it's like, all right, I do want to push and it's not there. But the data doesn't lie. That's what me and Steve say. Data don't lie.
Yeah,
and
or
it
data don't
could
lie in my favor.
Yeah, man. Yeah, or in my favor. So sometimes it might work in your favor. It's like actually telling you to go heavier when you do have it, from a fatigue aspect. And then also when things aren't working well, you can also dial back. But I guess mentally one way we could work around it is like if we get lazy and we start coming in and not being as intentional, the VBT training just doesn't work in that way. You need to make sure you're giving intent every single session as well.
Yeah.
And you'll find that in some of the warm-ups. You'll take a last warm-up and it would be slower than what you're expecting, and you're going, well, actually, I really try very hard on that. Like those days where you feel cooked, like day 3 for me, so yesterday, usually squats don't feel great. I didn't use my velocity tracker, but if I used it, last warm-up would have been like really slow compared to like probably like 0.08 slower than what it should normally be. But the top set was definitely at the RPE. Like it felt the same as normal, moved the same as normal on video. but just the intent was so much difference between the top set. But I find it very hard to kind of manage intent in those sessions where I feel terrible. I don't know if you guys do anything in particular for that, but I kind of just turn up and pray that intent kind of comes with me to the gym.
Yeah, for me, like you said, for it used to be the day after like a big deadlift session. That day would always move just terribly, and I'll just follow whatever's on the number. But I guess it kind of takes it into consideration as well. Like that bar speed is going to be a result of intent, how fatigued you are, all of it put together, right? And so you can't really will yourself to be as intentful as you can if it's not there either, which is why I guess why VBT works so well to help manage fatigue. But then it also goes, it's a very slippery slope once you start blaming your training on the VBT as well. It's like, oh, I'm clearly tired. Look, okay, I'm just going to take it really easy.
Yeah.
Isn't there that element of like, in terms of intent, like it gamifying training a little bit? So like on days where you are feeling, a little bit shit, if you were using it and, you had a last warm up and it, is moving that 0.8 slower, whatever it is, do you find it helps you go, nah, fuck that, I'm going to try and move this next one quicker, and then you actually do get more of this out of the session?
Yeah, I've found that on multiple times. I'm sure Stephen has.
I've been punished. I've been punished for it.
You've been punished.
Yeah, it's like, oh no, fuck that, I'm gonna do it, and it's like clearly overshot. It's like, oh, I guess that's when it was like, Data, don't lie. I was like, shit.
Maybe I don't have it.
but it does force you to think like, no, fuck that. Like I need to bring my A game to this next set, because that last warm up was terrible, and I guess it always puts me in that mood. But then it's also clear to be like, okay, if it's not there, it's not there. It's a balance.
Yeah, especially with singles and prep. I don't know if you guys are using singles and prep, and so say like 8 weeks out, you start tracking like, here's my second, third from last warm up, and building up from there. And you just track that data every single week. So you'll see that your 220, say, squat warm up moves at this speed, and the week after you'll just consistently try to beat it. And it just makes it so easy to judge where fatigue is going to be on the top set and how you're feeling. But like 220 moves slower, and you get to your next warm up, so 240. You're still trying to beat the last week's performance on that. But gamifying training is so good. I enjoy it so much, because training itself to me is fairly boring and repetitive. Because obviously we do 3 movements, do squat, bench, deadlift, and kind of the same pool of about 30 accessories. But then having a different element where I'm trying to beat a machine, to beat previous me, makes training so much more enjoyable.
That's what I found as well. I was like, I'd go back always and look at the week before, because I only had a brief stint, then I lost it. Now have another one arriving next week, and we always look back at the week before, and I'll be like, I'm going to beat that, and then I would, and then there was one week I was actually, when I was at in Sydney with Danny at Omega, and I wasn't beating it, but I wasn't saying anything out loud. I was like, fuck, this isn't good. But I went up anyway. But I actually hit the top set better than my warm-ups the whole time. All my warm-ups were terrible, and then I ended up moving the top set really well. But I was just looking at it like, I got to beat this, and I was like, come back, I'm like, fuck, no, it's not happening. It's not happening.
Chasing the dragon.
Yeah. I went head on and uploading it anyway, but I was in a bit of a giving period where I wasn't lifting anywhere near as much as I have done before.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll segue this then. So, nationals for the British upcoming, and is it 8 weeks?
Yeah, 8 weeks. So it's the 18th of March-ish.
Yeah. If all goes well, obviously you got the plan then to go forward into Worlds again.
Yeah, if all goes well, then definitely Worlds. Malta, that's all anyone's talking about at the moment, isn't it?
Fucking hot boy summer.
There's the other part too. It works differently over there, right, in the UK, to make the Worlds team. It's not just a matter of winning your weight class. It's hitting the total, and you can get a spot, right?
Yeah. Um, so Henry Tosh introduced A totals and B totals last year. That kind of, I think it's based off of the last 3 years of
Yep.
worlds and Europeans podiums averaged out, and that's the number you have to hit to be kind of guaranteed a spot in your weight class. Kind of doesn't work that well in the 105s because the total is 875, which I have and Mo has. Sam doesn't have it currently, but we'll definitely get it at nationals. There'll be three of us over that. So in that case, like I need to beat one of those in order to be kind of guaranteed a spot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you can still only take two in each weight class.
Yeah, it's only data in each
Yeah.
weight class. But then there's also, when comparing against other weight classes, it's a percentage of how high over the A total you are.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
So say
Yeah.
say you have 10 people beat it, the top eight on percentage get, as my understanding, Henry can obviously do it slightly differently depending on like different variables going on. The head coach, he essentially can do what he wants, really, can't he? But just the percentage you are over it. So for Europeans, for example, there's a guy called Indiraj. He'd hit the total dead on for the 120s, I think, and I was 2.5 kilos over. Well, he was 2.5 kilos over as well. Basically, we had the same, but my percentage was slightly higher than his. So this year, if it came to that, then I should go ahead of him because I was like 0.01% higher, just because the total was lower, but 2.5 increments.
Very
If that makes
interesting.
sense. Yeah. Ultimately, hit the A total and pray that you get picked. I guess is the way it goes.
Is 900 that kind of number you got in your head for the next one?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love 900.
Yeah.
But realistically, with how everything's going right now, like training itself is going really well in a period where I'm not paying crazy amounts of attention to it, which I think as soon as I clear up and get a little bit more of my plate and I can push a little bit harder, I I see no reason why I couldn't be close to that. Like for Euros, I should have squatted 330 to like 332, but misgrooved my second, as I seem to always do. Um, but purely because of the width of the bar. Like the rope bar was so whippy there. That trying to control it was an absolute nightmare for me. So I've changed, I've taken my grip out wider, not French low bar, but the bar's a little bit lower down my back to try to stabilize it a little bit more so I have to deal with as much whip. Um, and hopefully that pays off and can get to kind of that 330 to 340 range. Um, special knee sleeves have come through, so they're like the Inzas. Got some new knee
A7's new
sleeves coming out.
ones
Yeah, the new A7 ones are hopefully coming out soon.
sponsored.
They should be able to. Not sponsored. Kind of, that's a complicated one. But yeah, so hopefully get the 330, 340 range on squats. Bench something more than 190 is all I care. People ask me about 200. I was like, I benched 190 for 3 meets in a row, and the meet before that was 187. Like if I bench 192, like that's a massive win.
You and me
like,
both.
you add,
You and me both,
they're like,
brother. Fucking hell.
they're like, you need to add like 10 kilos to your bench. You can add 10 kilos between Euros and Nationals. It's like, I've added 2.5 kilos in a year. Like, I don't know what makes you think that I'm suddenly going to gain 10 kilos in the next 3 months. I appreciate the support, but if I can bench 192, I'll be really happy.
More accessories.
More accessories, isn't it? And then deadlift, obviously, pulled 360 at Euros.
Yeah.
And the only natural place you go from 360 is 375. You go for 7? Yeah, 7 reds.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah,
7 reds.
7 reds. Yeah, 7 reds is the only real place you can go for that, isn't it?
What about blue and a collar? Blue and a collar's nice. 365.
Yeah, it looks pretty, but it's 10 kilos of 7 reds, isn't it?
True.
7 reds is some ridiculous club. Like, I'd never imagined
it's a good party to be in.
Yeah. I mean, I think when I started powerlifting, I'd never thought that even pulling 300 would be possible.
Mm.
Like almost anyone, like I'm sure in England or in Britain at the time, barely anyone was touching 300 kilos. Like there's a magical number going on now. But now it seems to be kind of 350, which is slightly more terrifying. And it's kind of that 300 kilo deadlift is where we're expecting kind of like 83 juniors to be deadlifting around 300 kilos. Like the standard in powerlifting has just risen so much over the last 5 years.
It's ridiculous.
Just
Yeah.
as the sport's grown.
And you're
I
right
guess
in
when
the
you were
thick of
starting
it.
out,
You're right in the thick of it, Ben. Like
Yeah,
with the
somehow.
others compared to you in your weight class, like you very much feel that pressure of like trying to meet that standard because you've got Mo, got the other guy.
Yeah, I don't feel the pressure per se, but I just try my best not to be left behind.
Yeah.
Because both of those, like Mo's a year younger than me, we've trained about the same amount of time. But he's just so
How old's
strong. Like,
Mo?
he hasn't put Mo's
How old?
25 now, I think. He's just 1 year younger than
Fucking
me.
hell. I didn't know that.
Yeah. He's young, but built like an absolute house. Like the guy has so much muscle mass, it's ridiculous. But he hasn't put together what he should be able to put together. Like Mo next year should win worlds. Like the way his training goes and how strong he actually is, like he should win worlds. Like he was capable of winning Euros. If been able to bench anywhere near, like even a second attempt, if he got 7.5 kilos more, he'd have won on his bench because he missed his second and thirds. His feet were slipping on the carpet. I've never had really any issues with it before, but lost about 15 kilos on his bench there, and then almost pulled. I think it was 387 for the win.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, got to his knees, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's basically there for him. Like his arms are so long, it basically looks like his knees anyway. And you take all of the top lifts that he's kind of attempted or been very, very close to from this year, and you're looking at like 920, 925 if he puts it together on meet day. And he's basically worked out how to squat now, which is terrifying. He's squatting 325 and he wasn't sure about a lot of the kind of little technical bits of it. It seems like he's been working on it. It looks a lot better on Instagram. There's no reason he can't be squatting at 330 plus. You pair that with a 390 deadlift, 210 bench, it's 930.
Yeah, but you don't know what can happen on the day, man. Like,
you don't know what can happen on the day, but the progress he can make is insane. Like he's different. Yeah, and that's what to chase him.
Quickly, like through COVID over there, right? The restrictions were quite tough, right?
Yeah.
I remember, I think before COVID, like one of the top lifters over there would have been Emmanuel Stevenson. All right.
Ah, yeah. Fuck. Screamer boy. Screamer Manuel.
Screamer Manuel. Yeah.
Yeah. Was he someone that you had to compete against?
No.
Was he 93 or 105?
He was a 105. He held the British record for a while. I think it was 869.5.
Yeah.
I think.
I'm not sure what, but I do remember.
Yeah, held the record for a while, but absolute, just freak of nature, so strong. I think if he'd stayed in the sport, he'd be right up there still. Incredibly strong.
Well, he squatted a world record as well, if I remember correctly, back in the day.
I remember that. I remember seeing that. Yeah. On the gram.
Yeah, we have obviously Josh Greenfield as well. 105, squatted 345 and a half.
That's right. He went to CrossFit, didn't he? I used to follow him.
CrossFit stuff now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Fuck, I forgot about them.
I'd fucking die if I went to CrossFit.
So it seems to be the kind of progression that people make. They finish powerlifting and they go CrossFit or they go to BJJ.
Yeah, that's
BJJ.
It.
Yeah.
BJJ is massive now, isn't it?
Why do you think that is?
Bro, I don't know. It's hard.
We like to wrestle each other. It's
a hot, sweaty environment. Bunch of guys on mats. What's not to love?
I think it also has something to do with the individualism of the sport and the competitiveness as well.
Yeah.
The only difference, the thing that the massive difference that I don't find appealing, that's compared to powerlifting and BJJ, is the unpredictability of the other human.
Yeah.
Which is why I find it kind of strange that people go there, because there's so much predictability in powerlifting. Like we do the same thing every single time. Going to another sport like BJJ where you're versing another fucking human, there's so much unpredictability there that I can't get my head around why so many people go there besides the competitiveness and the individualism of the sport.
It could just be that major change from you've done powerlifting for say 10 years and it's all been very predictable. You know what's going to happen. If your prep goes reasonably, you have a very good idea of what you're capable of on the day. And then you come into this other sport where you try your best to control another person. You don't know what's going to happen. It's just a
Yeah.
complete like switch up of what's going on in your life, I guess.
Yeah, it's huge. No, I guess we can close things out there. That like we touched on just about everything. I don't think there's anything else. If you wanted to touch on so from the start, like coaching as well. You're a coach as well.
Yeah, the coaching is my full-time job now. I coach with EST in the UK. But started doing powerlifting coaching. I think it was maybe a year and a half in, but we had a bunch of us at my university lifted, and was kind of starting to help people there in terms of it because I'd been in the gym for 6 years before that. And so knew a little bit more about training than the rest of the people who were just kind of coming in. And so started helping those people with their training. I'd get to a point where I'd wake up, have breakfast, be in the gym for 5-6 hours, but do my own training, help people with their training, kind of doing in-person stuff there, but not formally, and kind of built from there essentially. Built up a club at the Montfort University in the UK, and from there it kind of just expanded. It got to a point where I was doing programming for 20 people for free to start with, and did that for about, I think, 9 months to a year. I think it was free, and then asked for £10, and then had my first 2 clients leave because they didn't want to pay £10 a month.
Oh my god, a month.
A month. And but I was so nervous to ask for my first £10 from people because I was like I really enjoy doing this. This is a hobby of mine, but it's got to a point where it's taking up so much time.
This is now a job.
The money from it becomes a job. As we've gone from £10 just slow increments up to where we are now, where I'm a full-time online coach working with EST, and this is my life now. It's a bit crazy. Like, I'd never thought that I could pay for my entire life from powerlifting, being able to lift, do a job I love. And it's just surreal, to be honest with you, that this is it now. Like,
I had this conversation with Steve. Like, sometimes we put so much work on ourselves in terms of coaching that we forget that this is a job, and like we're essentially just coaching other people, and we're still powerlifting. And this is probably the best job to allow you to keep pushing powerlifting training as well.
Yeah, that definitely is.
We just need to.
Yeah, that position has definitely helped, I guess, with my own training and being able to train more and better and eat better. Like, cook all my own meals from scratch at home. Like, makes life very easy and get on my walks in, get outside in the sun early in the morning. Like, all these little things that really help that a lot of people can't do, I can do because of my job. And I'm massively grateful for that, and like the trust that people put in me. And like, I've had like a great client base, like a very, very stable core in it. And like, I don't know how I got here, but it's kind of great. Like, it's taken a while. Like, there's a lot of work, and it's nervous. Like, I quit my full-time job in April. So I worked for an insurance brokers, doing data analysis for them. I kind of just took a step of like, my girlfriend at the time was like, just go for it. Like, why not? Like, you'll regret it if you don't.
Yeah.
So 25 years old, just quit that job and was like, okay, let's see what happens. So I can always get another office job if I need a job. If this goes down the pot in like 5 years' time, so be it. I don't think it will. But if it doesn't, get another office job. But if I didn't try to see if I could do this full time, like, I'd regret it for the rest of my life.
100%. I can definitely relate to that because I did the same. I walked in and just fucking resigned on the spot.
Yeah.
I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. And I'm a back against the wall kind of guy, sink or swim.
Yeah.
Didn't really have a plan. I just walked in, resigned, was, as far as I could get in the position that I was, the job that I was doing, just left. They were like, we did not see this coming. And I was like, I got to do it.
I'm not that sink or swim. Mine was very much planned and strategized to make sure that I could continue living.
Yeah, I was in a good position financially at the time, so I was all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of like the plan, I had zero fucking plan.
Just got after it. That's sick.
I just complete trust in my ability, really. Zero plan, but complete trust in my ability, and knew that things would work out.
That's quality. So good.
All right.
All right, sweet. We can probably wrap it up there, man. Thanks for coming on, Big Benny. All the best for the training in the next 8-9 weeks. Move house, start returning training again, and all the best at British. And hopefully we'll see you in Malta.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, boys. See you in Malta.
And
Nothing else.
everyone can find Ben on Instagram with Ben Pape Powerlifting. Is it just Pape Powerlifting? Because
Yeah,
I know a
just
lot of
Pape
Australians
Powerlifting.
probably may not know who you are. So Pape Powerlifting. Man is strong.
Sweet. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.